Imagine this. You wake up one morning and your bank card doesn't work. You try an ATM, but it just says, "Service unavailable." You open your online banking app and it freezes. On your TV, emergency alerts are flashing, and the government has just announced an urgent economic meeting. This isn't a movie script. This is exactly how a $400 trillion global debt bubble bursts quietly at first, and then all at once. For decades, the entire world has been living on money that doesn't exist. Governments borrowed far more than they could ever repay. Corporations borrowed even more. People bought houses, cars, and lifestyles funded entirely by loans. It all seemed to work for a while, until the debt became bigger than the global economy itself. Let's look at the numbers. In 1980, the world had around $40 trillion of total debt. By the year 2000, it had passed $100 trillion. By 2010, it exploded past $200 trillion. And after the pandemic stimulus, the lockdowns, the rate cuts, and all that money printing, the world crossed an unimaginable $400 trillion in total debt. That means we now owe more than 4.5 times the entire world's yearly economic output. And here's the truth that nobody in power wants to admit. This debt will never be repaid. It can't be. It can only be inflated away, restructured, or defaulted on. For years, the global economy survived because interest rates were extremely low, money was cheap, borrowing was practically free. Governments kept rolling over old debt with new debt. Corporations kept issuing bonds, households kept refinancing their loans. Everyone just pretended everything was fine. But then, the world changed. Central banks raised interest rates at the fastest pace in modern history. Suddenly, the cost of borrowing doubled, then tripled, then doubled again. Governments that used to pay 1 or 2% interest on their debt now have to pay 5, 6, even 7%. Corporations have to refinance trillions of dollars at much, much higher rates. And families are drowning in mortgage payments and credit card interest. The entire system is shaking, and everyone knows it. The warning signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Banks are quietly losing billions because the bonds they hold have fallen in value. Countries are struggling just to pay their interest bills. Some nations are printing more money simply to pay off older loans. Corporations are taking on new debt just to pay off their old debt. And consumers are relying on credit cards to buy basic essentials like food and fuel. This isn't growth, this is survival. We are living in a global Ponzi scheme where everyone hopes someone else will pay the bill later. But every bubble bursts, and this one will too. All it needs is a trigger. Maybe a major country defaults on its debt. Maybe a large, systemically important bank collapses. Maybe a major currency crashes. Maybe a recession hits much harder than anyone expects. Or maybe the bond market, the bedrock of the financial system, just freezes for a few hours. When that first domino falls, the rest will follow fast. So, let's walk through what happens the day the $400 trillion debt bubble finally pops. In the first hour, financial markets will be thrown into absolute panic. Bond markets will freeze solid. Investors will start dumping everything they own: stocks, bonds, everything. Stock markets will hit their circuit breakers, and trading will be halted. Social media will explode with fear and speculation. The headlines will scream, "Global financial emergency." In the next few hours, banks will begin facing severe liquidity shortages. ATMs will start running out of physical cash. Banks will quietly reduce withdrawal limits without any announcement. When you try to move your money, you'll get messages like temporary delay or unable to process request. People will start rushing to bank branches, forming long, desperate lines, demanding their money. But the banks won't have it. Most of the money we think we have doesn't exist physically. It's just numbers on a screen. Governments will enter emergency mode. You'll see late-night press conferences with politicians telling you, "The system is stable. Do not panic." But their words will mean nothing. The public will feel the truth. Trust will collapse instantly. Panic will spread across continents like a wildfire. The currencies of weaker nations will be the first to go. They'll crash by 10%, then 20%, then 40% in a single day. Imports will become impossibly expensive. Fuel prices will skyrocket. Supermarkets will run out of essential goods as supply chains break. Inflation will jump instantly because the currency in your pocket has lost its value. Next, corporations will begin collapsing. Companies that were already buried under mountains of loans will not survive the shock. Defaults will spike. Factories will shut down. Millions of people will lose their jobs overnight. Global supply chains will break instantly, making the crisis even worse. By the 17th hour, the chain reaction will be fully global. One nation's default will hit its lenders. Those lenders will then default on their own payments to others. Banks in multiple countries will be forced to freeze all withdrawals. Businesses will fire workers en masse. Stock markets will remain closed. It becomes a worldwide margin call, everyone demanding money from people who simply don't have any. In response, governments will implement strict, drastic emergency measures. Limits on how much cash you can withdraw, capital controls to stop money from leaving the country, restrictions on converting your money into foreign currency, temporary freezes on all financial markets, and in some places they may even introduce price controls and rationing for essential goods. And after 24 hours of pure chaos, world leaders will finally step forward and admit what they feared all along. The global debt bubble has burst. The old financial system is gone. They will announce a global restructuring, which is just a polite way of saying the world is resetting its debt. New rules, new interest systems, possibly new centrally controlled digital currencies, tighter controls, more centralized financial power. The global economy will enter a new era, not because anyone wanted it to, but because the old one became mathematically impossible to sustain. But here's the most important thing to understand. Not everyone loses in a crisis of this magnitude. Some survive, and some even rise. The people who survive are the ones who prepared before the collapse, not during it, and not after. They are the people who focused on reducing their debt instead of adding more. The people who hold real, tangible assets, not just digital numbers in a bank account. The people who built multiple sources of income. The people who understand that the very nature of money is changing and positioned themselves accordingly. Because history shows us one thing very clearly. Every major financial collapse creates the single biggest transfer of wealth in the world. Those who are ready rise. Those who aren't get wiped out. A $400 trillion debt bubble cannot grow forever. It will burst. The signs are already here. The system is begging for a reset. So the real question is not, will the bubble burst? The real question is, when it bursts, will you be prepared? The story of the massive global debt bubble doesn't just end when it bursts. What happens next is far more crucial because it will redefine money, power, and our personal freedom for generations. When a global debt collapse finally happens, the world doesn't just snap back to how it was. Instead, we enter a long, difficult period of rebuilding. This phase will be filled with new rules, new technologies, and new forms of financial control that most people aren't prepared for. After the initial shockwave, governments will start rolling out what they call temporary solutions. But as history has shown us time and time again, these temporary fixes almost always become permanent. First, expect much stricter monitoring of all money flows. Every single transaction you make will become trackable. Every transfer will be recorded. The official reason will be to prevent illegal activity or to protect financial stability. But the true purpose is to gain complete control over capital in a world spiraling into chaos. Next, they will start restructuring debt. This won't happen overnight. It will be a slow, piece-by-piece process, rewriting the rules of who owes what to whom. One morning, you might wake up to find the terms of your loan have been extended. Your interest rates have been changed without your consent, or your savings have been forcibly converted into a new, unfamiliar system. Some banks might impose haircuts, where savers lose a percentage of their deposits. Others could convert your frozen money into long-term government bonds that you can't access for years. It will feel unfair. It will feel like theft. But in that moment, there will be no other alternative offered. During this period, we'll see a chaotic battle between inflation and deflation. Some essential goods will become incredibly expensive, while the prices of other things will crash as demand evaporates. The housing market will be violently shaken. Some regions could see property values plummet by 40 to 60%, while others become completely unaffordable as local currencies destabilize. In this new reality, society will be split into two distinct groups. The first group will be those waiting for the old system to return, clinging to the hope that things will go back to normal. The second group will be those who adapt, those who accept the new reality and start moving. This second group will be busy building new income streams, learning new skills, and seizing the unique opportunities that only a major reset can create. Because every collapse in history, from the Great Depression of 1929 to the financial crisis of 2008, has created massive opportunities for those who understand what's truly happening. Think about it. Assets become incredibly cheap. New business niches open up. New technologies are rapidly adopted out of necessity, and entire new industries are born. There will be a massive demand for specific skills that help people navigate the chaos. But the single most important change will be the rollout of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Governments will market them as the ultimate solution, a fast, stable, and programmable digital money system that can't fail. Exhausted and scared, most people will accept it because they'll feel they have no other choice. And with that, the financial world will shift forever. Your money could come with conditions. It might have an expiration date. There could be limits on what you can buy or where you can spend it. Taxation could happen in real time, deducted automatically from your digital wallet. The system won't just record your transactions, it will actively control how you use your own money. But even in this highly controlled environment, there is a path to freedom. It's a freedom found not in resisting the change, but in preparing for it. Freedom through knowledge, freedom through valuable skills, freedom through diversified income, and owning real, tangible assets. It's the freedom that comes from understanding these historical cycles, not fearing them. The collapse of the $400 trillion debt bubble isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new chapter for the global economy, a chapter where the old world, built on endless borrowing and printing money from thin air, finally gives way to a new one. This new world will demand responsibility, resilience, and adaptation. And in this new world, the line between those who rise and those who fall will be drawn by a single question. Did you see what was coming? And did you prepare before everyone else did? Thanks for watching. If this got you thinking, make sure to follow 4 more insights into how the world is changing.